Hi there, Chris from TotallyEV, and today I'm doing a video review on the audio system that's comprised within the VW e-up. This is the 2019-2020 variant. Now, if you'd like a full detailed review of the car, do check it down in the description below, where we've reviewed it both on our website and also on our YouTube channel. Now, before jumping into this review, if you do have Instagram, we'd very much appreciate a follow. It's at TotallyEVnet. It'll be on your screen, and indeed, if you guessed it, in the description. So without further ado, let's see how this system does. So let's first start off and talk about the actual speaker configuration. There's 6 speakers in total. 4 at the front and 2 at the back. There's no way of upgrading this configuration to another system. So for example, the other VW models out there, when you've got Dyne Audio, you can't do that with the VW e-up. Now, in terms of the infotainment display, it's very simplistic. While it doesn't support Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you can connect up to the infotainment display via Bluetooth. Now here, I had no issues in terms of latency, and when it comes to audio quality, it relies on the SBC codec only, which is slightly a shame, but somewhat expected, given most cars that I've actually reviewed only support that codec. And now let's give you a small little sound demo. What I've done here is position the camera in 4 different positions within the car, so be sure to check out the annotations at the bottom, and played back a song. The song that we're going to use over here is from an artist called Priya. Her song name is called Falling. Do check that out in the description below, and of course do like or subscribe to her channel as well if you do like her music. Now, the sound demo out of the way, you will agree that a compressed video file on YouTube or even my microphones might not be the best sort of replication of how this car will sound. But nevertheless, I'm going to give you my subjective opinion. And before doing that, it's just worth bearing in mind that in terms of my infotainment display, I've got the treble at 0, mid at 3, and bass at -1, because that's what I felt gave me the best all-rounded sound. Now, in terms of the overall sound quality, let's break it down per frequency. First off, let's talk about the bass. Now, the sub bass is somewhat, not say non-existent, but you don't really hear a long extension. With that said, you do get a feel of warmth, and that's because of the pretty strong mid bass slam that you get. In fact, if you do dial the volume quite high, you'll actually hear a little bit of rattle occurring throughout the car's cabin. That's mainly due to the build quality of the interior cabin of the car, but it's just something worth bearing in mind if you do like blazing out your music and you do listen to bass heavy songs. But what I will say over here is the mid bass quantity is plentiful, and in terms of the quality of it, it's pretty good. It's pretty accurate and pretty concise, and I had no issues there. When it comes to the mids, you might have noticed that I actually had to dial it up by around 3 notches via the EQ. If you dial it more than that, and even 3 is somewhat of a limit, I will say that it kind of gives you a weird type of sound in the mid-range. So it depends in terms of your music, but my settings, I found that the mid-range over here was decent. While it's not super forward sounding, it does give you a nice overall sound, and when it comes to listening to tracks, let's say like Priya's track, you will actually hear the vocals come out pretty well, which is actually quite surprising for a stock sound system, and furthermore a car of its class. As for the highs, I think they're pinpoint accurate. They weren't harsh to my ears, and they extended very well at the top end, providing a nice sort of sparkle and clarity, giving your music a little bit of life. Like in Priya's song, for example, you might have felt that it was a little bit more lively, whereas with other systems that I've reviewed, I felt that the highs were a little bit cut off and rolled off, and therefore you just don't really have that pleasure when you're listening to music. So what I will say over here is that VW have done a good job throughout the frequency range. As for the Soundstage, given the car's got a relatively small cabin, you'll feel pretty closed in with the sound. Now that's not to say it's kind of an excuse, but it's actually pretty good because here you feel in tune with your music. Now there's decent instrument separation, and of course I would have liked a bit more width and depth, but I think that's also a limitation of the car's interior cabin, which is relatively small, and therefore you can't get that spacious type of sound that you might expect in other cars which are, well, slightly larger. So on the whole over here, the Soundstage is pretty nice, and I think the imaging as well and tonality is pretty much pinpoint accurate and no issues there whatsoever. So on the whole, what do I make about the sound quality? Well, quite frankly, I'm actually a big fan of it. So much so that this VW e-UPS audio system gets TotallyEV's Value Award. Now, it's pretty much customary to say that the car comes included with a sound system, but there are some cars out there which really don't sound that good out of the box, and without adding, let's say, £1,000 upgrades to it, you might not get the sound that you would have expected. Now, given the car's class and given the car's sound configuration that comes as standard, I'm actually pretty surprised, and really kept my head bopping to my songs that I like listening to whilst I was driving and testing the car. So that is my opinion of the VW e-UPS audio system. Let me know in a comment below if you've heard it or you do own it. I'll be very much intrigued to hear your thoughts. And of course, if you do like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to see more, and favourite and share, as it always helps the channel grow. Alright, I've been Chris from TotallyEV. Take care and bye bye.